And top of the morning to you, takers. We have a very special episode. I cannot promise that we'll do more of that, Regan.
Awesome.
You're welcome. We got a very special episode for you. Quite a banger here. Going across the pond to Old England. We're here in New England, but we have Jake, a.k.a. Dynasty Brit. You can find him on Twitter, but we are Just the Tip, a fantasy football podcast. I am Mac Disfatt-Bidge. We got Ryan the Tagless Haynes.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there. I'm ready for this episode. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
Brilliant. And we got IR Regan.
Hey, everybody.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Glad we're finally getting some knowledge on this podcast, so this is going to be interesting.
I know. It's a very special episode of somebody who actually knows what they're talking about. So make sure you listen up. You can find us on YouTube, Just the Tip, a fantasy football podcast. Like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. Listen to us on Apple, Spotify, Google, and Amazon. Download the episodes and share our tips with your friends and family. They would really love these ones. So, like we mentioned, we got Jake, a.k.a. Dynasty Brit. Jake, how you doing?
Very well, yeah. Nice to be on here with you guys. Really looking forward to it.
We appreciate you taking the time for us on this Sunday morning. What is today? The 24th of April?
It's like midnight in England right now.
It's 5 hours ahead. We're fine. Yeah, it's like he's halfway across the world. Quick flight. We have 5 days until the NFL draft, so we're going to get a nice sneak peek at Dynasty Brit's favorite rookies coming into the class. We've already had our outlook on wide receiver, QB, and running backs, and a little bit of tight ends, but figure we get another outlook from somebody else who is a contributor to 5 Yard Rush and King Fantasy Sports. You can find him on Twitter at 5 Yard Rush, the number 5, and KFantasy_sports on Twitter. Go give him a follow. Check out his articles that he's written. Some pretty good ones there, if I do say so myself. And yeah, Jake, so you're a Bama fan for some reason. I don't know why you want that. And I hear you're not at all a sore loser, especially after Revolutionary War. So we appreciate you coming to spend the time with us, Americans here.
Yeah, it didn't take long before the Revolutionary War digs to come out. Fair enough. Yeah, I appreciate
it. It's about all we have going for us right now. So, but yeah, so you're heavy into dynasty football, college football. That's a bit of your passion. So just tell us a bit about yourself, your favorite teams, some special articles you may have written, just anything you want to share. The floor is yours.
Cheers, guys. I'm from Bristol in the UK, down in the southwest. I've been a Bama fan since like 2008 when I first got into college football. On basically on a holiday with some of my friends that are from Alabama that I met whilst at university in London. So I've sort of been a Bama fan since then. Absolute college football diehard. Just like honestly, like I'm reading Mac articles on like a Thursday night and stuff, and you know what I mean? So I've been into fantasy like not too long after that. I think my little brother actually got me into fantasy. He's much more of an NFL guy than myself, or at least used to be, and got me into fantasy. I don't know, maybe like 2011, 2012, roughly around then. And discovered Dynasty like a couple of years after that. Played redraft for the first few years, and then Dynasty a few years after that, and really never looked back. I love the Dynasty format. I love the sort of year-round game. I'm a sort of casual Tennessee Titans fan.
That's everyone.
I'm much more of I sort of root for the Bama players that end up in the NFL. So like wherever they end up, I just want to see those guys do well.
Right on.
And Cam Newton suck. So cool.
We agree now in New England. Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you've dealt with that.
Oh yeah.
How many dynasty leagues are you in?
On advice of my girlfriend, who said our relationship could potentially be in danger, I've cut down the amount of dynasty leagues I've been in from around about 15 to just under 10.
Oh, that hurt my chest.
And like, I mean, like it's really hard to sort of play 15 leagues seriously, and like, do you know what I mean, monitor waivers, and all the rest of it, without dedicating like sort of a serious portion of your free time, if you want to do it properly, in my opinion, anyway. And so yeah, I sort of on the advice of my girlfriend, good advice, I must say.
That's a full-time job right there.
Yeah.
I thought 8 was bad. Oof. Guys, we can tell our wives, say, hey, we're not so bad.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A couple of those are like C2C leagues, right? So so it's kind of also, it's just kind of more than 9 or 10, because I'm playing like sort of simultaneous college leagues at the same time as I'm playing along with the NFL rosters. So I kind of get around it in that respect, really. Right? But yeah, those are pretty intense as well. Like, I don't know if you guys are playing in any C2C leagues right now.
No.
What platforms are you finding those on? Because Yahoo came out with a college football league in the States here that I played for a year, and I had an absolute blast. But it's so hard to kind of find the platforms for them now.
Yeah, so you can use Fantrax has like a sort of like a campus account and set up now, where they have like the full integrated like college teams and rosters and what have you. I think it's coming soon on Sleeper, because they're not one to miss a gap in the market. Like, and Fantrax's platform is super, like, whilst it's really good and it's super detailed, it's so janky. And it's not a good user experience really at all, in my opinion, anyway, in the opinion of a lot of the other people that I play fantasy with. But we have to use it right now because it's the only place you can really, the only place it kind of works well simultaneously when you've got like an NFL league and you've got like you've got your college roster running alongside that. So like a lot of like C2C leagues and Derby leagues, you'll have them just like recording the college stuff in a spreadsheet on Excel, because it's not like the integration is just like not there yet, and like the market hasn't sort of caught up yet. But the demand is definitely there. So like you'll see it happening on Sleeper on the main platforms in like the coming years, for or at least, or probably even ready for next season maybe, in terms of Sleeper, because they have like insane development teams, and they churn out like new updates and new parts of the platform like all the time. So yeah, I'm definitely expecting that in the coming short or near future rather.
Yeah, I mean, Dynasty is absolutely blowing up over here. So you got to think like the more demand there is, the more options you're going to have for different platforms to use. So hopefully Sleeper is able to like kind of adapt and give us an option like that, because it's hard to kind of figure out ways to play. But I'll tell you, when I did the Yahoo League, like that's when I got exposed to like Jonathan Taylor and CeeDee Lamb and guys like that, and even like Albert O from Denver. Like I wouldn't have known anything about him unless I played that league. So it was kind of nice.
Yeah, that's the best thing about it, right? Like you play C2C leagues and you immediately get like a leg up on the people that don't play C2C leagues but that do play fantasy in the NFL. Like the knowledge of players that it gives you, and I mean obviously like I'm a diehard college fan anyway, but the knowledge that like playing C2C or any kind of like Devy format really like is I would recommend it for anyone who's like serious about Dynasty and like serious about getting really good at Dynasty as well.
Awesome, man. That's a great tip.
We're gonna have full tips for you in this episode, that's for sure. But I say we're gonna get into that, but I just had one quick question. Is the DVR your best friend over there? Because we complain about Sunday night football and we have Monday morning work, and Sunday night football here is starting at 8:45 sometimes. It's ridiculous. How do you survive watching football? You wait 24 hours to watch it?
Yeah, so I mean, Game Pass is like your best friend over here, right? It's super easy to have that and to be able to just log on and watch like the full game or like the 60-minute version or whatever it is. And then yeah, we try and stay up for most of them. To be honest with you, me and my little brother will stay up for most games. It's the Sunday night ones or the Thursday night. Not too bad, right? Because I'll probably like work from home like, on a Friday. My company that I work for is kind of flexible about working from home a couple of days a week. So if it's like on a Thursday night game, I'll normally stay up and watch it and just sort of have a lazy Friday. Whereas it's mainly like the Monday night football and like the Sunday night, like primetime Sunday night games is kind of gutting when it starts at quarter one in the morning over here, when it's like one of the best games of the weekend. So yeah, that does suck. But it is what it is, right? Like, hopefully in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, it might have like a London franchise, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that later. One of my questions was curious to hear your thoughts, but we'll get heavier into Dynasty questions. We'll have a little game later, test your knowledge on New England. I'll test you guys too.
Oh no, I lost.
You already lost, so we'll see. But let's get into I don't know. Let's get Dynasty Brit's tips.
That was exciting.
And flagged.
That was awesome.
Nailed it.
It's all good. So yeah, I don't know. Regan, you kind of had this question because Regan just popped his cherry on Dynasty League. So just had a question and he'll have a follow-up. Like, what is your strategy? Say a PPR, 12-team league, 1 QB. What do you prioritize? Give us a strategy. Say you're starting up, you're drafting all the vets, then you'll have the rookie draft later. Were you going wide receiver first, running back? You're looking at the age. Give us your thoughts.
Right, yeah, no. So, like, the first thing I'll say is that every season is different. There's always going to be some seasons you have like a wealth of running backs or wealth of wide receivers or one top tight end or 5 top tight ends. Do you know what I mean? So, like, first thing is like always being aware of what like the landscape is in terms of fantasy, what most people consider like tier 1, 2, 3 targets. And then there's the obvious rules, right? Especially in 1 QB, like don't go QB early. The value is just not there. It's silly. You might on occasion get Lamar Jackson in the 7th, right? Where before anyone knew he was Lamar Jackson, and he pops off, and you have situations like that. But what is it like? I'd say it's probably like a 1 in 30 chance that you hit on something like that on every season to season. So like my main like sort of tip for anyone going in, especially we talking Dynasty here, right? As well.
Yeah, we're just all focused on Dynasty today.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So then for sure, right? Because there's in Dynasty the quarterback room or the quarterback depth is even larger because you have the backups that often you have a backup on your roster, right? You might have like a Taylor Heineke right on your roster. In redraft, you'll never have a Taylor Heineke on your roster, right? But in Dynasty, you might, and then you might benefit from him later in the season when he has a couple of good games and you haven't got anyone to play. So it's like, so in terms of QB, like for me in Dynasty, like the value is just so low that you just avoid them early on in the draft. I guess that's pretty standard advice, right? Though, like a lot of people will say that it's pretty common sense now to do that. And like the thing that's worked for me most in especially in startups is like you'll see a league, especially recently, right? You have like the top 4 or 5 running backs, and then after that the drop off is pretty considerable. And so people start hitting wide receivers like immediately, and then they go heavy in wide receivers. And so you sort of see these patterns, and like I think if you see like a run on a specific player, like it pays to zag because you're going to find more value. And you okay, so you might not get a running back for the first 2 rounds, but you might have, do you know what I mean, like 2 top wide receivers that are going to be top 12 wide receivers for the coming season, or at least are projected to be. So I feel like there's a lot of value in just staying super fluid, not locking yourself into any kind of game plan, looking at how it's playing out in front of you and seeking out the most amount of value. Because the biggest thing, right, is value in Dynasty. It's not redraft. Like it doesn't really matter if you pick someone that's like super. I mean, maybe you pick someone in the 4th round that you would normally pick in the 7th. doesn't really matter because it's redraft. So like the value, your proposition that you're losing out on isn't anywhere near as much. So yeah, that's definitely one of my sort of like staples is like always looking for value.
I mean, you say like the quarterback advice is pretty standard, but you go into these drafts and there's always somebody picking like Josh Allen late second, or always somebody picking like Pat Mahomes third or Lamar Jackson, and they're pumped about it too. They're like, "Oh, I got my quarterback of the future," and it's like, dude, those are a dime a dozen. What are you doing?
No, you're right. Like you're absolutely right, and I think you'll find like especially in my experience, there's people that play fantasy because they want to pick their guys. They don't really care if they win or lose, and like that's how a lot of people start, and then they get the bug, right, and then they're like, right, now I really want to win, and then all of a sudden a diehard Buffalo Bills fan isn't picking Josh Allen in the second or Stephon Diggs in the first because they want to win sort of thing. So like I think you always get that like sort of, I don't know, segment of fantasy football players that are fairly new to the game that are just picking their guys, right? That like going after the guys that they want, make them feel comfortable.
Meanwhile, us vets are picking up Mike White like week 6, putting up 40 points or whatever he did.
Yeah, that didn't happen. Not for me. Kind of to play off of that too. You pretty much answered my question. I'm jumping into Dynasty League for the first time this year. Really just been kind of like worried about doing it because I feel like I'm just going to be engulfed in more fantasy as it is. I'm already in like 7 leagues. So, number 7, number 8, hopefully the wife doesn't get mad like your girlfriend did, but we'll see. But there was a lot of info you just said. I'm literally going to be writing notes this whole podcast. But is there anything? Yeah, right. I need a bigger piece of paper, honestly.
You can listen to it later, right? On
That's true.
Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon. Just a tip, a fantasy football podcast.
Seamless plug transition.
Nice plug. And I don't know if you really have a strict answer for this because there's a lot to it. But is there anything you have for like a newbie? Is there anything I should be worried about? Should I be like the first year? Am I going in and am I just drafting as many long-term players as possible, or should I be going in to win right away? Anything at all that could help somebody just being a newbie.
I think the biggest trapdoor, I guess you could say, for rookie players or newbie players in Dynasty is trading and value and perceived value, and being the amount of times I've seen people make arguments to a newbie like, oh, like, do you know what I mean? This guy's going to be on this team and he's definitely going to get traded to the Pats or something along those lines, right? And it never ends up happening, and it's super easy to convince someone that doesn't really know what they're doing. Not that you don't know what you're doing. Obviously, you play fantasy for a while, but the whole like when you're playing it like in Dynasty and what have you, you're looking at your players as like, I always like with wide receivers, for me it's like a sort of depending on the sort of player they are, but like a sort of 1 to 8 year window, whereas like a running back, I'm talking like a 1 to 4 year window, like is it in terms of like the elite production that you're going to get out of them in the prime of their career. And so like it's a different proposition. You're looking at it from a completely different lens. And so like in terms of trades, if you're new into Dynasty and you've got other people that that play Dynasty have played it longer than you, just run. Don't make any trade decisions without running your trades by somebody else first. I made silly mistakes when I first started Dynasty and traded players that were like in the now good players that I thought were good, and like a year later were worthless. And so it's like that's definitely something I would recommend, is just run any trade offers come in, just run them by someone that whose like opinion you trust.
Yeah, that's huge to know. And honestly, that's right for the listeners right now is, email us guys your questions, because I'm going to be talking to these guys just as much as you guys want to talk to us. So I'm going to be learning, but there's going to be a lot of questions. So that's great info. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Don't trade when you're bored, like a first rounder and Eli Mitchell for Calvin Ridley right before he gets suspended. Ugh.
And don't play fantasy when you're drunk either.
That too.
That's impossible.
Yeah, the offers that I've seen people make when they're drunk, just it can really ruin your team. So
what you're saying is send trades at specific hours.
Yeah,
No,
yeah. I
no,
mean, if you're gonna try and take advantage of it, then it's definitely a strategy, right?
Oh, I'm gonna write that one down.
All right, Ryan, you got a question?
No, no. Reese, what's happening over there?
Oh my
Earthquake?
God,
You
okay?
good? No, I don't have a follow up on that. I do have a little bit of a comment as far as like the drunk trading thing. I did get a trade one time at like 2:30 in the morning, and I'm like, what? Who the fuck is texting me at 2:30 in the morning? It was a
me?
notification for Sleeper. It was a legit like roster swap. Like the guy traded his lineup for my lineup. I'm like, dude, I don't have time for this. Like, don't even send me this trade.
Was it?
It was
me?
wild.
Come on.
Wasn't you, Mac? Not that time.
No, that'd be quite the cock up.
I guess one more quick tip for Dynasty, like especially new Dynasty players, right? Is like it's quite easy to get wrapped up in the it's Dynasty, so everything's for the future. So I only draft young players. Like don't do that. There's plenty of value to be found in vets, in guys that have been on in the NFL for a good few years. Some people, I saw people last year in redraft leagues overlooking someone like Brandon Cooks to pick up someone like Elijah Moore, and it's like, right, yeah, in Dynasty, sure, like definitely Elijah Moore over Brandon Cooks, but in redraft, like that, yeah, like it's silly. And like if you're playing as like a first year Dynasty and you're drafting and what have you, and you see someone like Brandon Cooks on the board late, like don't shy away from that, even though he's not do you know what I mean, not going to be a long-term asset. It's still value to be had out of them, and especially production. You look at Brandon Cooks last year, he was probably being picked in the, I don't know, maybe 12th, 13th, 14th round of Dynasty leagues, Dynasty startups, and he was what I think like a solid wide receiver 2 all year. So
yeah, Mac was all over that last year. So yeah, good call.
Yeah, I traded like a 5th round pick at one point for Emmanuel Sanders. And he's 34. You basically gave him to me, but he also had like a 5-week stretch where he was putting up double digits, and it was an easy flex option.
For sure, yeah. See, I mean, if you got 5th round picks and you know you can get someone like Emmanuel Sanders, I mean, yeah, 5th round picks are worthless. So yeah, for sure, if you know you can get guaranteed production out of someone with a 5th round pick, it's yeah, even if it's just for one game, like then it's definitely worth it in my book.
Exactly.
I got Davis Mills with the 5th round pick, but then I dropped him. Totally worthless. All right. So let's talk about the rookie players coming out in this draft. We were talking a bit during the combine, and just how much value do you put in their performance? Does that influence your decision come the rookie draft? How much stock do you put in that? Or are you going to look at what team they get drafted to more and then their actual college tape? Just how do you weigh your options with combine results?
Yeah, obviously, like the athletic testing is a huge part of it, right? Like we see all the time. I think this year, we going into it, for example, this year before the combine, it was sort of Breece Hall, Isaiah Spiller, and Kenneth Walker Jr. as sort of like the top 3. No one really, there was no real sort of differentiation. After the combine, it's Breece Hall without a doubt, right? His athletic numbers are off the scale in terms of like he's like 99th percentile in like a bunch of different drills. And he just like clearly sort of separated himself. So you can use the combine for stuff like that, right? Like that's like a really usable, actionable piece of information that you can take into draft season and trades and whatever. So like it's important for sure, but then there's also some people don't test well, right? Like you look at Garrett Wilson in this year, he got like a load of stick, right? Because he was hopping every time he caught the ball, and like that's just nerves, right? It's just like it's a weird situation. You're dressed in these super tight shorts. You look like an idiot. You're basically like it's a dog and pony show, where and you've got to do it, right? It's part of the game, especially if you're invited, especially if you're one of the top prospects. You can obviously rule yourself out of certain drills, but you want to essentially do the ones that are relevant to your position. And like he got a load of crap because he was hopping, and I was looking at it like, yeah, by all means, please do that, and I'll take him as the 5th wide receiver off the board in rookie drafts while you draft like someone over him that isn't as good because he hopped at the combine. So there's that as well. There's like the flip side of it, right? So I feel like there's a lot you can take from the combine, and like often like some of it's pretty awful. Some of the takes are pretty awful.
They can be. So speaking of this rookie class, just want to give us a ranking. Like, who's your top 3 wide receivers? Who's your top 3 running backs in this class? We don't even have to talk about quarterbacks. They're not that good this year.
I'm out on this quarterback class.
Yeah.
So 5th round pick is too much draft capital on a quarterback.
It depends. It depends. Like, if it's a 1 QB league, by the time you get to like the 4th round, like it's hard to pick up a fantasy asset, a wide receiver or running back that's going to be any value anyway. So it's like if there's someone like Willis, like if I wasn't really needy at any specific position on my team and I had a late 3rd and Willis was on the board, like I might pick him up, right? Because the ceiling is super high if he puts it all together. But I'm more than happy to also drop him first week of waivers if I need to. So whatever. Sort of. In Superflex, obviously a completely different story. Like I don't know if you guys play any of Superflex Dynasty.
Yeah.
But like it's like becoming the most popular game like mode or sort of your way to play fantasy, right? So like that changes the conversation significantly. But right now 1 QB, like none of these guys I'd be looking to pick up like anywhere close to the 3rd round at all. Right?
So you hate the QBs this year?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
They're not good. Long-term value anyway.
No,
what about wide receivers and running backs? Who do you got in your top 3?
Like in no particular order right now. Like I've done like a sort of a surface film study on most of sort of my like top 10, top 12. But I obviously love Garrett Wilson's game. I think he's super versatile. He has like a bit of it all, right? Like he can make the contested catches and the surface catches, pretty good route technician. Not quite as technically good as Olave, but like still like a good enough route technician that when he gets to the NFL level, like he can sort of hone that and make that elite pretty quickly. Super consistent receiver, like a major downfield threat, will probably be able to play in the slot as well. So I just really like him as like an all-round prospect. I think he's like probably like the most pro-ready prospect for me out of like my sort of like top 3, 4, or 5. But yeah, and then they got London as well, like Drake London coming out of USC. I think he's more of like the athletic freak, which is slightly more raw compared to someone like Wilson, who's like less of an athletic freak but more technically good and more sort of honed in terms of his skills. I think London will be like one of the first receivers off the board. He's just got that like crazy good athletic profile. A lot of people have been comparing him to Justin Jefferson, like in terms of athletic profile. I don't think he's like as like at that level yet, but there's nothing to say that he can't be. And again, landing spot makes like quite a big difference with him. I think if he gets a lot of early targets in year 1, I think it could be like massive for his development. And then like my number 3 is like quite a difficult one. There's like quite a few guys that I like there, and I've sort of fluctuated sort of in and out of the position, if you know what I mean. But right now, I have Treylon Burke, the guy out of Arkansas. Like a Julio Jones type athletic profile, although not as like quick and didn't test all that great at the combine. So like he's one that is sort of the combine has pushed him down a few people's boards. I've seen it on Twitter and on the fantasy sites and stuff like that. But I think he is an athletic freak in the contested catch. He is red zone target, and I wouldn't be surprised if like the Patriots target him if they are going to go wide receiver. I know a couple of you guys are Patriots fans, so like if they are going to go wide receiver first round and Jameson Williams or one of the other top guys isn't, or at least their top guys isn't on the board, I could see them going Burke just because of the sort of red zone threat that he is, and even in short yardage situations as well. Like he's that sort of big body receiver. That Mac is as we all really know, is super accurate, so they can marry up like really, really well.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Bill go after the value if Burks falls to him. because I mean that's what he's looking for. Is he going to take? Does he see Jameson Williams as a value at 21 coming off of an injury in the championship game, or is he going to see like a Treylon Burks as a more of a value because he's slipping because he didn't test that well
and can play now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think as you know, like I'm a huge Bama fan. Like I think there's a danger of Jameson Williams. He's only 1 year of like true good like sort of elite college production in an offense with arguably the best quarterback in college in a long time. In my opinion, like I think Bryce Young's talent ceiling, like we haven't even seen. And I guess I'm biased, right? But like
I was going to say,
I still think he's got like another level to go up when they get that offensive line sorted, and sort of he has like a more diverse like wide receiving core. But like there's always the danger, right? Of he has like one really good season at Bama. He's in a pass heavy offense. There's a bunch of other wide receivers that DBs have to worry about. So he rarely gets sort of like, do you know what I mean, double covered or real hard pressure coverage at the line. So like I think he might have benefited from almost like the best possible situation that you could have wanted as like a downfield wide receiver in the SEC. So like I'm my cause for concern, or not cause for concern, but like definitely sort of a bit of more of a cautious approach to Jameson Williams, I think.
Right.
I do have a follow-up question as far as like when you look at Garrett Wilson, you look at Olave. I mean, when you're trying to think about like who you want to target in these drafts and what expert analysis you want to look at, like what makes Garrett Wilson, Wilson that much different than Olave? That's what I'm trying to get at.
I think the main thing that sticks out is size, right? Olave is a little bit of a smaller guy, like a more of a slighter frame, and he's like a specific one of those receivers that plays in a specific role, kind of like an Elijah Moore type, although he's not 5'9". But like he's gonna play a certain role in the offense. Whereas I feel like Garrett Wilson is a lot more versatile when he gets to that next level. I think he's got that sort of frame that way if he wants to put on weight, he can put on weight. And he's good enough in all areas to sort of, if he wants to play outside, I feel like he could play outside. And if he wants to play in the slot, I feel like he can play in the slot. And I don't think Olave has that sort of versatility to his game. And we've seen Olave get locked down a couple of times. Like we saw it in the championship game against Bama a couple of years ago. He was pretty much locked down for the most of that game. So yeah, there's again at this level, there's this majorly fine margins, right? Like it's really hard to differentiate between prospects that are this good. But for me, I think Garrett Wilson is just more of an all-round versatile prospect that translates better to the next level.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you got a lot of novice players who are out there trying to watch their own film and differentiate these two guys. And if you watch, an Ohio State game, you're going to be like, wow, Chris Olave is, super talented and he's making all these big plays. And, what's that difference going to be? So thank you for clearing that up.
Awesome. So how about these running backs?
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of gave it away, right? Like Brees is my number one.
Unusual.
Yeah, I was pretty certain on him coming out of the season. I think it's really hard for a guy to consistently stand out as one of the best running backs in the country at a team like Iowa State. Like Matt Campbell has built a great program there. Like no disrespect to him whatsoever, but they're still Iowa State, right? It's not Alabama, it's not Ohio State, it's not Michigan, Notre Dame, Florida. It's super hard to stand out consistently and be considered as one of the best running backs in the country for like almost the entirety of his time in college. Obviously there's been years where I think he was in the same year, or he was a freshman when Najee was coming out, right? So and he was even considered in some of the same conversations as Najee Harris that year. So he's the clear one for me. The athletic profile, he's demonstrated good pass catching, demonstrated running through the tackles. I'm not going to pretend to be an elite running back scout, but like from what I understand and from what you can see on tape, I think it's pretty clear that he's a complete back that's going to translate really well to the NFL level. Walker is like kind of like Brees Hall light for me if that makes sense. He does pretty much everything the same as Brees, but just like not to that level, not to that sort of elite level. I think his pass catching as well is definitely something that is not really a massive part. It was a massive part of his game at Michigan State. So that's obviously something that's always going to be a knock on him. But like otherwise, like an all-round great prospect. Like I compared him quite a bit to David Montgomery. The Bears, I think like they kind of like look at similar size, similar sort of athletic profile, similar sort of production in college. So yeah, I'd be intrigued to see what he's like, and I think landing spot is a big deal for him, and what kind of running scheme, what kind of blocking scheme that he runs behind. Because if it's like, for example, if it's like an outside run gap scheme, something like that, right, he's going to struggle because he's not a super elite lateral mover, but he is someone that runs hard through the tackles. And if he's some, like, do you know what I mean? So like where we saw who was the running back that benefited from Lamar Jackson, the ex-Bama Heisman winner, was it the Saints? I always forget his name.
Mark Ingram.
Yeah. That's who he kinds of, right? That like he steps into a role that like Mark Ingram had with the the Ravens. Yeah, sorry, Sunday brain. With the Ravens.
It's quite all right. You've been talking a long time, so we can break up these questions for you.
No, it's cool. I don't mind, honestly. But yeah, no, I feel like that's the sort of scheme that he could really excel in. And then James Cook is like a little bit of a surprise for a lot of people, right? Like,
don't tell people. People in my league are listening.
I know a lot of people like Isaiah Spiller, and I do as well. Like, I think he's another guy that's close to me, quite complete all round back. Although like didn't test as well as I thought he would test at the combine, and kind of like come down a little peg for me, like in my rankings because of it. But like I've watched James Cook at Georgia now pretty intensely, obviously, especially because Dalvin's his brother. But like he's one of the few players I have done like a real deep dive into the tape on, and like he just moves so similarly to Dalvin, the way he glides, like in his roots as well. Like he's definitely without a question the best receiving back in the class. I think he could be an elite running back receiver at the next level, and yeah, he just needs to sort of, and he's not as sort of what's it called? I don't really know what the word you use for it in America, but we say stocky, kind of like short and sort of muscly. Whereas Dalvin's more of like a little kind of like muscle hamster, whereas like James Cook is a little bit like longer. Do you know what I mean? He's got a little bit more like length to him. So like he's going to be less of a run through the tackles, like dash runner, like Dalvin is. But that's not to say he can't be like quite a valuable fantasy prospect at the next level.
He almost reminds me a bit of like Le'Veon Bell as far as the size and talent.
Yeah, probably not at that elite level, like but for sure, like this definitely the style and like the way that they move.
You know, it's funny because when you brought up James Cook, I looked at your Twitter and I saw that, and I was like, oh man, if he's right on this, that would be a steal. Because I popped on Fantasy Pros, and he's running back 8 right now on Fantasy Pros, and some of these mocks he's going like late second, early third. So if you can find the running back 3 of the draft in the late second round, early third round, I mean, you won the draft.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's one that draft capital means more than say some of the others, right? If he gets day 2, second, third round draft capital, if someone takes a chance on him, say in the third, like then all of a sudden you will see him rise up a lot of fantasy boards. I think he'll quickly become like this consensus 4th guy after those top 3. If you get, but then again, like we saw this last year with Trey Sermon, where everyone was super hyped, right? Where Trey Sermon was going to get great draft capital, and then he goes to like the 6th or something like that, or the 5th to the 49ers, and all of a sudden he just slides down everybody's boards, and rightly so, right? He wasn't really fantasy relevant for most of the year. So like he's one that draft capital means a considerable amount for me.
I feel like Isaiah Spiller is getting to that point too. I think people are starting to get more and more down on Spiller, and he's one of those guys too. Like he gives me kind of to a lesser extent like DeAndre Swift feels, because when DeAndre Swift got drafted by the Lions, he immediately started slipping down draft boards that year. And he was supposed to be like the number one guy in that class. And then you saw Jonathan Taylor jump him. You saw J.K. Dobbins jump him in a lot of leagues and a lot of formats. And then you would end up getting DeAndre Swift with like the 5th or 6th pick. So to a lesser extent, I feel like that might happen to Spiller, where he goes from like middle of the first round to late first round, and you might have a real bargain there.
Yeah, that is definitely a possibility, especially if he sort of falls out of, especially if he falls out of like the 4th and goes into the 5th, that's worrying, right? Like that's when teams really don't see him as anything special. They're not willing to give up like the sort of capital that they would give up. Do you know what I mean? For someone that they thought, okay, yeah, like he's not amazing, but we've seen something like special in him, right? We've seen like a potential that he could be elite. So like, yeah, I think if he slips outside of the 4th, it gets really worrying for Spiller.
I will be absolutely gutted if I can't get Cook in the late 2nd round.
Max in at 209, so he's sweating a little bit. He's got his guy.
Well, so I traded Eli Mitchell for Calvin Ridley, and my running backs are Dalvin Cook and Austin Eckler, and I have no other depth besides their handcuffs. Chris Carson was part of that trade too, but I don't think he's even going to play. It's not looking good. So I need a running back in this rookie draft to help me out because I have no other draft capital to trade. So we'll see. We'll see.
Good luck, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Speaking of Eli Mitchell, give us who do you got as like a deep sleeper that you can grab in like the 3rd or 4th round in your rookie? That would be like the Eli Mitchell that'll break onto the scene in his first year.
Just running backs, right? Just running backs.
Running backs or receivers. I have a guy, but you can go first. You tell me.
Okay, yeah, I'm. There's a couple of guys that like I think it's worth like keeping like a little bit of an eye on. There's Tyler Beatty coming out of Mizzou. He's a running back that by all means like isn't anything super special, but is consistently produced with at Mizzou with not really much around him in like the hardest conference in college football. So and he tested pretty well athletically, and if you like look at his tape, like he has got that sort of like explosive ability, and he looks like his tape kind of just pops for me, and I think if he's like sort of gets into that right offense, or he gets a little bit of a draft capital, I don't see him going anywhere outside of sort of like the late 5th, early 6th round or something. But we are talking sleepers here, right? So it's like he is definitely one that is a full-on sleeper. But at the same time, we've seen that before, right? Like looking at James Robinson.
Yeah.
Perfect example.
I was looking at Alec Pierce from Cincinnati, and you say Missouri? Is that what you meant? I was gonna bust you on it, but
Mizzou is definitely the short name for Missouri. That's what they call it out there.
Yeah, Tyler Beatty from Mizzou. Yeah,
I'm just translating for.
It's not an English thing, Mac. It's not an
Take
English
it easy,
thing.
biscuit.
It's a Midwest thing.
I was homeschooled. What the hell I know? All right. Alec Pierce, wide receiver from Cincinnati, who I'm looking at. You can get him in like the late 3rd round from my mocks anyway. That's a guy I would take a shot at. 6'3", 213 pounds. Could be a big target if he gets the right landing spot. We'll see.
I'm a big Damian Pierce fan. Did not get a lot of opportunity in college, but he's got the right size and skill set for an NFL running back. And he had 16 touchdowns on 100 carries last year at Florida. So
he's become like the trendy Twitter pick at the moment, like for analysts, like for a bit of engagement farming, right? Like you release a running back rankings and put Damian Pierce in like the top 3 or 4. And everyone's, oh my God, I can't believe you got him there. Do you know what I mean? So, but it's like the kind of trendy thing to do at the moment is, and for rightly so, like he's picked up, he didn't really have much opportunity at Florida, but he tests really well. And he's shown like some sort of sparks on film and what have you. So I quite like that. I quite like that for a pick for sure.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a basic bitch, so that makes sense.
We know. Where's your Starbucks?
Not here today.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
you guys come across Khalil Shakir, wide receiver from Boise State?
My notekeeper just did.
Look, the first thing you need to do is look up some of his highlight film on YouTube. Because it's pretty fucking special. He's like contested catch demon. Just highlight after highlight after highlight, week after week after week. He's a little bit undersized, like 6. I think he's like 6 or 6'1", 190. And like he hasn't got like, I think he's like 4th. I think he's 4. He was like a 4'3", 4'3". 4'3". Yeah, 40.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like not super like super elite or anything like that, but he's just one of those guys that just makes plays all over the field. Like absolutely dominated his competition in the Mountain West, and like also dominated like cornerbacks are a lot bigger than him. And you'll see if you check out his highlight tape, like there's a bunch of catches where there's no way he should come down with the ball, like absolutely no way he should come down with the ball, and he still comes down with the ball. So he's definitely one to look at, and I feel like could be someone that gets like a lot higher draft capital than people are expecting him to. So like look out for that name. I reckon like day 2, maybe late day 2, early day 3 of the draft.
That sounds like a Belichick round 1 kind of pick. Definitely.
Oh no.
We're gonna be like, come on, Burke, and he's gonna be like, no, Shakir, that's my guy.
Yeah, enjoy his highlight tape, man, because it's pretty special.
Yeah, gotcha. Is there any players right now that you are looking to trade high right now or trade for low in some vets that you're looking at? Just running back, wide receiver, quarterback, doesn't matter to us.
Yeah, for sure. I've this offseason I've got rid of almost all of my shares of J.K. Dobbins.
Oh wow, gotten rid of him, huh?
Yeah, like he showed a lot in his rookie season as the guy that kind of came on. I think it was like the sort of last 5 or 6 games of the season, or the back half of the season, right? Where he became their RB1, although Lamar Jackson's their RB1, so he was never going to get like the sort of true RB1 workload. And then he got that savage injury last offseason, or the offseason before the last season, right? So we didn't see him at all last season, and I think you can still sell him at the mystique high of the production of the back end of that first season. You can still get in. I sold him in Superflex for a late first round Superflex pick. Like now, I'm taking that all day in Superflex, right? Like for someone like J.K. Dobbins, who's coming off a massive injury in an offense where he's never really going to be truly an RB1 like Jonathan Taylor is, or like Najee Harris is, or like Christian McCaffrey was, or hopefully will be if he's fit again. But yeah, so I think you can still take advantage of that kind of like weird sort of mysterious gap in the market.
That's interesting. I've been hearing a lot of trading for him because of how much run volume Baltimore has, but I don't know what they're going to do with Lamar Jackson, who represents himself. He doesn't have an agent, so they haven't done contract talks yet. So he's not getting the extension. Who knows what's happening? Yeah, so this is his last year.
And after Deshaun Watson just got his $230 million guarantee, he's going to go, well, I'll have 22 sexual assault accusations on me, so I want at least that. You know,
and he has an MVP season.
Right, exactly. Multiple playoff wins, and I think a couple of wins, right? I think he's won one playoff games in a couple of seasons now. So like
1-1, yeah.
Yeah, so if they pay him that sort of money, then maybe it might work in Dobbins' favor, right? They take the workload off of Lamar. They don't want him to run, but then again, he's not really a thrower either, is he? So like you can't really go, right, okay, we want to protect our quarterback long term and make him throw more and do the thing he's not actually known for being elite at. So I just don't think it's ever going to spell ridiculously high production, ridiculously high workload for J.K. Dobbins.
Well, that makes me feel better because I thought I was crazy for not wanting too many shares of Dobbins. So
I don't want that backfield.
I think people forget about how much the Ravens liked Gus Edwards. and he's going to be back in the mix.
Too.
I feel like people totally forget about Gus Edwards, and I still think this is going to be like a Lamar Jackson RB1, like you're saying, and then kind of still like a split situation with Gus Edwards. But on a side note, here's a trade that really hurt last year. I was in a win now mode, so I flipped Dobbins for James Robinson. Robinson had been hot, and then it led into like the weeks where Urban just decided he wasn't going to play Robinson anymore, and then he tore his Achilles, and I'm like, oh shit, this trade totally went south very quickly. But yeah, that's my sad sob story from last year.
That isn't fantasy in one trade. I don't know what is. I feel like that always happens.
Yeah, it's happened to all of us, right? At least once or twice.
Especially when you're in 15 leagues, right?
True. Yeah.
Oh man.
And you've had one too many.
And one too many. Or 5.
In terms of buys right now, it's all relative, right? Buying in fantasy football, I think, is very relative to your team situation, to your composition of your roster, to the sort of mode you're in. Are you rebuilding? Are you win now? To the type of league you're in. Are you playing with analysts that know everything inside out? Are you playing in your home league? But like in general, I think someone that you can buy right now, probably the lowest you'll ever be at. How do I say this? The lowest you'll ever be able to buy him for, I think, is someone like the DK Metcalf right now.
Absolutely.
He's someone I'm looking at. He's someone I'm looking at because obviously Russ has just gone to Denver. They've got pretty much no one on their offensive line that's any good. And so like the fantasy projection, at least for the immediate future of DK Metcalf, doesn't look all that great. And like a lot of fantasy managers, especially even in Dynasty, right? Like people still fall prey to the this is what his value is now, so I can't perceive it changing. I can't perceive it growing or fluctuating in any kind of way. And it's hard to do that sometimes, right? Because you say, okay, well, maybe if they get a really good, they tank this season, they get CJ Stroud or Bryce Young out of the draft or something like that. But nothing like that is ever certain. And I think people if they get like a half decent offer that's sort of tempts them, that's on the table, you can get DK Metcalf for a price that I think in a year or especially 2 years time, there's no way you'll be able to pay for him. So he's someone I'm looking at for sure.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of offers for him. I can't do it. I almost did. Tyreek Hill and him with some picks swap, but I'm in a win now mode. I've been Final Four for 2 years now, and I'm like, I need a win. So, but I couldn't do it.
I just traded Antonio Gibson for DK Metcalf and pick 109 in this draft.
Jake hates Antonio Gibson.
This is fantastic.
So that's perfect.
All right, there you go. I mean, his situation is about as good as it can be in Washington, you'd think right now. So
yeah, absolutely. I don't completely hate Antonio Gibson.
No,
so
I'm only kidding.
I did just trade him away though for the 104 in Superflex. The 104, in Superflex. To a guy who is in win now mode as well. And so like there's definitely value for trading away Antonio Gibson if you've got him right now, because he's obviously the lead back in Washington. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate him. I'm always wary of these like wide receivers in college that end up as running backs in the NFL. And like I'm waiting. I just don't think because of being on the Washington roster, right, and their team, they haven't been like a super open offense historically over the last couple of years. And I'm just waiting for him to get like a real, like, do you know what I mean, to get into the open field, not see a linebacker come in, and just get absolutely wiped out. And like we've seen it happen so many times where running backs are like slighter frame that get into open field and all of a sudden bang, like that's it, like their knees just blown out or what have you. And I'm just always wary of a guy that was used solely as a wide receiver in college, and that translates to running back in the NFL. It's not to say he can't work. Obviously, he's had some good production in a pretty poor offense for the last couple of years. But
he's an athlete. It's just they're not using him properly. I don't know if that coaching staff's going to last much longer there. So we'll see.
Yeah.
And now they have Wentz. So good luck to them.
My Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Ryan.
I was gonna say
please.
my initial trade offer was Antonio Gibson for 103 in a single QB league, and the guy rebutted with DK Metcalf and 109 for Gibson. And I was like, wow, okay, I'll take that. Sure.
Yeah, I take that as well. I would take that for sure.
Mm.
As well, remember, like the running backs a 3 to 5 year window. There's rarely like I think Alvin Kamara is one of the only running backs that has broke the elite or like the what's it called, like the typical elite production window of like more than 3 years of like consistent elite production for the last, he's done it for 4 years. But then it has obviously, like this year, like is that going to happen again this year? Like who knows? Especially with his off-field issues recently. But yeah, so like you rarely get elite running backs that place in the top 12 or like an RB1 for more than 3 years in a row, and normally you don't even get that. So I'm always like a 3 to 5 year window on running backs. It's what Gibson's third season. He's not been in a good offense. They don't look like they're going to change. They're going to be like a dramatic change into this new style. It's not like Ron Rivera's known for like new and groundbreaking concept of offense, right? So it's like I think the Wentz trade hurts, right? Wentz we know Wentz isn't a massively accurate downfield passer, right? It's the one thing he has struggled with, and now he's not as much of a dual threat, sort of running threat, scramble outside the pocket guy like he was in Philly. Like he had more injuries in Indy. And I think teams are going to be much more say, okay, beat us with the run. Like, do you know what I mean? We'll double coverage Terry McLaurin, and leave the other receivers on man or in whatever zone coverage. You know what I mean? And say beat us with the run. Like we don't think you're good enough to beat us downfield. So I think Gibson. I don't see Gibson as a RB1 next season. That is a.
It tells you why Terry McLaurin's sitting out right now, waiting for that extra money because he's going to be playing double coverage.
Yeah.
Hopefully they trade him away.
Oh, man.
All right. We're coming up on an hour here, and I want to leave some time for the game. And Jake, if you have any questions, you guys got any quick tip drill? One last question for you. Quick question, quick answer. You got anything, Ryan?
Yeah, when is the NFL and XFL going to start using a promotion and delegation system? Because I would love that.
I mean, the short answer, and like the sort of short to medium answer, is it's not, because European football and like the sports that have promotion relegation don't have what the NFL have, which is a cabal of owners that will shake each other's hand behind their back to share the profits and to ensure their monopoly, right? And like no NFL owner is going to say, I will take the chance of giving up this sweet, awesome situation that we have just for the potential to make the sport a little bit more exciting. It's just never going to happen.
That's a bummer, Jake. Hurts.
Yeah, because it's in European football, right? Like all the owners, they do everything to fuck each other over, like as possible. So right, the owners of Man United and the owners of Chelsea, like they're never going to do anything to help each other ever. So it's a little bit different over here.
Yeah, it's kind of the same here. Regan, what was the team that McRae and Hutch played for over in England? Do you remember that team?
Oh my gosh,
they played for a minute.
Yeah, I don't remember the name. I know.
I'll have to look that up. They were blue and white, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, they went over there for a bit. Some guys we played with in semi-pro. They looked like they had a lot of fun. So hopefully it develops out there. You got a question, Regan?
Yeah, just a real quick. Do you do any redraft at all? Or are you strictly Dynasty?
Yeah, no, I do redraft. Redraft is where I bet on fantasy football, right?
Gotcha.
I have like a few different leagues that I get into every year for a couple of $100 each, with a couple with friends, couple with some like writers and analysts and people on Twitter, and like I'll do maybe 3 or 4 redraft leagues a year. I'll do one super flex, one normal, and then maybe one that's like, I don't know, depending on what sort of year it is, really, depending on what's coming down the pipe.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, I mean, we're in with the 5 yard rush guys. We do like competitions every year, so there'll be like the 5 yard competition and stuff like that. So like that's redraft. So I'll do that as well. Obviously, Dynasty is like my main format, but I do enjoy it because that's how I got into fantasy as well. So it's always nice to have a little bit of redraft fun, and like knowing that like okay, it's all right if I pick someone that might only have 1 year of production in like, do you know what I mean, left in them in the 3rd round or something. So
Oh, it's so nice. Like I never draft a running back early in a redraft, so that's got to be a totally different animal when I'm doing Dynasty.
Really? So let me a real quick question for you guys then. Like, what's in redraft? Do you say for example your pick 103 or pick 104? Like, and do you not go running back there or?
Oh, I'm going straight wide receiver if I can. If I'm not the top 3, I'm going wide receiver no matter what. Once in a while, I'll take a shot on a tight end, which hasn't helped me too much, but I usually go wide receiver heavy and then just try to bank on, just random guys coming. Like a couple years ago, I got James Robinson really late. There's like
Sweet.
stuff like that. I just try to bank on, and those are the years I tend to win just because I have such dominant performances from my probably 2 stud running backs, and a punt late on quarterbacks, grab somebody random like Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins are always my guys late 7th, 8th round or whatever it may be, even later. So
yeah, Reeves is definitely a 0 running back kind of guy. I kind of try to, if I can, I'll try to do like one.
Sorry, I haven't used a soundboard at all. I had to get my fix.
Understandable.
I'll try to pair 1 and 1 if I can. But like you said, Jake, before, like it really depends on value and trying to maximize your value. So if there's a run on a certain position, I might try to pivot. But if I can get an elite running back and an elite receiver within the first 2 rounds and just have 1 and 1, that's usually my go-to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's no real like fixed strategy that works, right? And in my experience, if you can get one of the, I think there's, I don't know how many running backs can we say that have like a true RB1 workload right now in the NFL? Like Najee, Jonathan Taylor. I'm trying to think of the top of my, Eckler. And even
which could change in 5 days. All that could change.
It literally can
because of the way
everything's. Sorry, Jake, I was talking over you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, like, if you can, no, go. Sorry, man. I was just gonna say, if you can get one of those guys, like obviously Christian McCaffrey when he had that sort of workload, right? Dalvin Cook with his sort of workload when he hasn't got injuries. Like, I think you should always prioritize that because it's such few and far between. If you're at pick, say for example, you're pick 7, right, and Dalvin Cook happens to fall to you in redraft, I think if you don't take that, it's legitimately criminal because of the sort of value that you can get at like from him at that pick is almost unheard of, right? He has RB1 overall RB1 upside every year that he's healthy for 16, 17 games. So like that's the only sort of like hard fast thing I would go for in terms of like redraft and especially redraft, right? Because it's only 1 year. You don't have to think about further years, right? So it's like you always go for that guaranteed production if you can get it.
Yeah, I would never do that. I'm not always an idiot.
Debatable.
Hey, Mac, before you say, I just want to say before we did the stats, how it came out, and I think last year we had like our top 10 running backs. I think it was the 3 of them actually finished in the top 10.
Yeah,
and that's why I always punt.
Yeah. Once we did our rankings, but it's because of injuries. Like if Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook missed a couple games, he's never finished a season. So that's the unfortunate thing.
Yeah.
We all had Joe Mixon right. Top 10.
Yeah, no, Mixon had like an awesome season last year. I traded away I think it was last off season before last season, traded away Saquon for Mixon and a late first, like in one QB as well. Got a bit of stick for it at the time and felt pretty smug come the end of the season. To be fair, like it was one of my few smug moments in fantasy last year.
Love that.
Yeah,
bloody brilliant. Quick question for you: when are we getting a NFL division based out of England? Next 5 years? Is there talk about that over there?
I think there's pretty simple answer to this, right? Is when the money makes sense. When
Right.
when the owners
Right.
get offered, when the money on the check that gets offered to the owners by the TV companies, by the commercial partners, by the sponsorships, and all of the rest of it, all of everything that goes into it on a money level, on a commercial level, when that number is at the right number, that's when it will happen. And like we see in the NFL, right? Money is king in the NFL. The 17 games, do you know what I mean? Like the expanded playoff, right? It's not about excitement. They don't give
All
a
money.
fuck if you watch it or not. It's for money, right? So like as soon as all signs point to green, then you'll have an expansion into Europe for sure.
Appreciate it, man. Do you have any questions for us that we want to get into before we get to our leftovers?
No, let's go. Let's go with games, and I saw something about a honeymoon in Aruba or something like that.
Oh yeah. So at the end of the episode, we talk about food on this podcast a lot. We use a lot of food analogies. So the leftovers is what we didn't get to during the episode, so we pull those out afterwards. So Regan has something he's really itching to talk to you about, but I'm chuffed to bits for having you on here. We greatly appreciate it. For those listening, you can, before we get to the game and that, can like and subscribe. YouTube, Just a Tip, a fantasy football podcast. Download our episodes on audio platforms. Leave a review. Follow Jake at Dynasty Brit on Twitter. 5 Yard Rush and K_fantasy_sports, right? Did I get that right? My notes are gone.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think you got it bang on. Yeah, nice one, man.
Yeah,
Nailed it.
check out his articles that he's written up there. Some pretty good ones. One I really liked about defining a reach if it's too early to draft somebody, if you really are into them.
I wondered if anybody had read that. Yeah, my background's actually one of you said you're behavior analysis, right? And my background actually in my initial degrees in forensic psychology, and so like that's I have like a massive like interest in psychology. It's always been like a hobby of mine, and I think there's so much of it at play in fantasy football, and there's so much like it's sort of like an untapped well of analysis, right? And then analyzing it much more from a psychological theory perspective than a numbers perspective, and playing the human instead of playing the game as such, right? Especially in Dynasty, this is much more of a thing because of how it's a year-round game, and you're trading at any given time of the year, and like learning to play the people in your league and like knowing what they consider a reach or what you can, do you know what I mean? It is super valuable. I think it brings in a lot of like the sort of psychology of group thing, right? And group behavior and stepping outside of your inter or intra-group and what have you. So yeah, I think it's really interesting.
What you're saying is you're cheating.
It's like counting cards and like frowned upon.
Sorry, I tend to go on about it too much because I get super
or masturbating on an airplane.
Oh, that's amazing.
Jake, I do have a particular interest. Maybe you can like look into this at some point, but looking at like excessive amounts of reinforcement for some of these athletes paired with like criticism, reprimands, things like this, you have like this reinforcement punishment balance. And for those that it's not balanced, I think there's like a connection between mental illness, anxiety, depression, OCD. I mean, you look at like somebody like Tom Brady, there's no way that guy doesn't have like some kind of obsessive disorder because he like is all football all the time. So I'd like to see like some more articles about that stuff.
Yeah, I think, yeah, for sure, man. Like that sounds like a really, really interesting concept. Especially the praise and the sort of the criticism side of things. I think like as much of these guys are like elite athletes, right? Like we don't really know what's going on inside somebody's head. I think I know obviously I'm a big F1 fan. I was talking to you guys before the show about the F1 and the team principal for Mercedes, Toto Wolff, one of the most powerful people in F1 with one of the most insane jobs. And you would think this guy, right, has to have it all together. And he came out quite recently and spoke about how he receives regular therapy and really struggles at times. And so like I'm sure there's a bunch of sort of behind the scenes stuff that athletes go through that is like understudied, underlooked at, under researched and what have you. So yeah, I reckon that's a great like sort of area of research, man.
Yeah, for sure. I
Wow.
mean, you think about like the attention that people get for like the positive praise and whatnot, but then like the tangible stuff, the money and the sex and the cars and all of that,
Yeah.
you
I
know,
like that second
like
part.
that could really throw you for a loop. Yeah, right.
All of
Alright.
that's really good,
Yeah.
actually.
For sure.
I'll take one
For
of
sure.
those.
Oh, whoa, yeah. I'll take one of each, please.
Yeah. Also, like performance enhancing drugs or
Yeah.
anything that can chemically imbalance these athletes too. I always was curious about that because they're on cutting edge stuff that's not
Oh, yeah.
over the counter. You know,
Julian
all the
Edelman.
loopholes they have to find. Like, how much does that play into some of their psychology as well? The
Oh
line
man,
of
we need a
thinking.
whole episode on this.
I know.
All right. We're going back
Jake-
to the round table after this.
I was gonna say, Jake, you want to stay for another hour, or we'll have you back some other time? That's fine. But
Yeah,
we
you know
really
the angry
do.
girl I was talking about? Like, yes.
Yeah. We. I know. I got like 10 more minutes, and I better be off here. So we'll get to the game real quick to quiz you guys on your knowledge of New England. So.
crap.
Bud Light presents Real Men of Genius. Real Men of Genius. Today we salute you, Mr.
That drop is always too long. Sorry about that. So, 2 truths and a lie. Get some knowledge about New England relating to certain topics. So, for example, play a game like this, Regan. Tom Brady has won 7 Super Bowls and is the best QB in NFL history. Is that a truth or a lie? Okay. Nathan Peterman, QB, you may have heard of him, threw 7 interceptions in 2018 in 4 games and ranked 49th among QBs, while Brady threw 7 interceptions in 16 games in the same exact year and ranked 2nd among QBs. Is that the truth or the lie? And then the other one is Ryan and Regan's moms are hotter than Tom Brady.
So the middle one's a lie.
Wait, so you're saying your mom's hotter than Tom Brady?
Oh no, he's twisting words here, Reese.
Got
He's trying
him.
to get to you.
Uh,
He's trying to get to you. No, Peterman definitely threw 7 picks in a game. I remember.
my
that.
mom's an angel.
In a season. He threw 4 picks in that one game. But,
Oh,
yeah.
That's
sorry.
okay, right. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Was it one half?
What's that?
I think it was one half as well, right? It was only
It was,
one half.
I think it was
think
like
you're
the
right.
first quarter. Yeah, it was
Maybe that's what I'm thinking. I'm like doubling if you like
Mhm.
extended it out.
That guy
Uh,
sucks.
But yeah, that was a lie, Regan. You're right. Tom Brady was the 2nd overall QB in 2015, not 2018. So a little
Wow,
trick
you
there.
Tricky bastard.
All right. So related topic, New England. 3 facts about New England. All right. Wait till I say all the questions and you can give me your answers. First one, volleyball was invented in Holyoke, Mass at a YMCA. Second question. Massachusetts has over 100 towns and cities named after England towns, while Rhode Island only has 15. Does that question make sense? Sorry, I wrote that
Yes.
late last night.
I think we got it.
And then the third question. The Boston Patriots, September 17, 1960, before they became the New England Patriots in 1971, they had their first win against the New York Jets, 28-24. Which one of these is the truth? Which one is the lie? Regan, we'll have you go first. Ladies
A,
first.
B, or C?
A,
Put it
B,
like
or
that?
C? Need me to
Oh,
recap the
man.
questions a bit?
No. I'll say C.
C, the Patriots, their first win was versus the Jets.
Yeah.
That's the lie. All right. Ryan, how about you?
I'm going A. We
Volleyball was
definitely
invented in
made
Holyoke.
basketball, but volleyball, I'm not sure. I'm going A.
Oh,
I knew you would know basketball, so I didn't want to use that one.
I knew that one.
All right. You know, funny story about basketball is they had the bucket. They had to use the ladder. Jake, I don't know if you know this. Use the ladder to climb up, pull the ball out. They're like, you idiots. Let's cut a little hole in there and then take a stick and poke the ball out. And then they're like, hey, let's just cut a big hole so it falls right through. Oh, us Americans, no wonder we stole our ingenuity from the Germans. Anyway,
So that's why my instinct was A for the lie, right? Because Americans don't create anything; they just steal from other people.
Noted.
that's
True.
Tell us how
I
you
had to get payback for the Revolutionary War joke earlier.
it's good.
Understandable.
It's all right. Nobody listens this long into the podcast. They won't hear it anyway.
That's why we got ours out early.
All right. So volleyball, the first one, 100 towns in Massachusetts and 15 in Rhode Island, or the Boston Patriots getting their first win versus the Jets. Which one's the lie?
I reckon it's got to be more than 15 towns in Rhode Island named after English names, right? Pretty much every town I've ever been to in America is named after an English name.
It's true.
Touche.
A lot of them are.
I have buildings down the road in literally that I can see from my window that are older than the entirety of America. So it's there's definitely going to be literally almost all towns right in this country I think have been replicated at least once, if not twice, in America. It's crazy.
We have towns called Braintree, then New Braintree in Mass, because we're very creative like that.
Braintree, Essex, that is, I think, in it over here. It's a town in Essex.
We got Braintree. Swansea. We got
There's so many, dude.
Yeah.
Hanbury.
Yeah, I saw
Bristol. We had Bristol.
Cambridge.
There's a couple of different Birminghams, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's
So that one's the lie, you think? Number 2?
I think it's got to be more than 15
towns
with the same dual names, England.
All right.
What's the answer? You're killing me.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure he was working it out, bro. Calm down. All right. Ryan, you said volleyball.
Yep.
All right. Jake's going with number 2, the towns. And Regan, you're going with number 3. All right. Regan, you are the winner.
What's new?
Regan never wins this game.
I know. All the trivia
It was
games.
too obvious.
Champs here.
So, the technicality was that they got their first win, but they were the New York Titans, not the New York Jets. So,
wow, this game is so lopsided.
This is some inside baseball stuff, right?
Yeah.
This is sort of knowledge that I'm never gonna know.
Me neither.
that was the point. That's the point.
This guy's a jerk.
I am. I'm sorry, Jake. But great having the chin wag with you. I'm gonna use that from now on.
How much research did you put into these terms, man? You did not know any of these before.
Even Jake's like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
It's having a chat.
Oh man,
Cool, man.
I'm totally using them wrong, but I don't care.
Yeah, using them right, just maybe a century and a half too late.
I was gonna say,
yeah, I think so.
Love it.
I apologize for that. I'm sorry. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us. For the leftovers, Regan, you can go ahead. The floor is yours. Go.
Oh, leftover?
Yeah, go.
Leftover
Just
action. All right, so Jake, I had my honeymoon in Aruba. We met a group of people from England. Their whole wedding party was probably 12 of them. They were very heavy drinkers, aggressively. And it was a guy falling asleep in the pool with a cigarette. I was like, this is hilarious. They taught me how to play. Oh my God, I'm zoning out.
It's in your notes, isn't it?
No. Anyways,
Water polo.
No. Either way. Anyways, I had a great time with them. Then we were up wicked late. They literally took my clothes and rolled up all my sleeves and my pants because they were too long, they said. So they had to be it was weird. But anyways, the next day I go out and they're playing shuffleboard at probably 8 o'clock in the morning. And they're playing for drinks. But the thing is, whoever lost, the winner get to go to the bar and make a concoction. And they would literally do Tabasco sauce, mustard, Jack Daniels. Like it was like the craziest mixture. They were all throwing up by like 10 o'clock in the morning. It was hilarious. But is this a common occurrence? Like, are you guys heavy drink? I thought we were heavy drinkers, but it's usually beer.
I confidently believe that the 65 million people in this country would easily outdrink the 350 million in yours.
Wow. I like it.
Yeah, no, I jest, but like we are, the English people, especially. I mean, I guess, Mac, right? You went to Scotland and Wales, and I don't know if you guys have had any experience of Ireland, but like they're on a whole other level. Like, and yeah, English people. It's also an English people on a holiday thing. It's not so much. We do have massive drinking culture here, right? And it is really, really prevalent, and it's like a major issue in most cities. But it's more of like when English people go on holiday, it's like, right, okay, from the moment I'm on holiday, I need to be drinking from the moment I stop being on holiday. And it's like it's just like a considered, I don't know, it's considered. But yeah, it's like when we go go on a flight, right, from Gatwick or Heathrow Airport. You'll get there at like 6 a.m. in the morning, and you will walk into Wetherspoons and see everybody with pints of beer.
That's amazing.
It's just normal, right? Like airport beer, you have a beer as soon as holiday starts. As soon as you get your luggage checked in, you start drinking. And like that sounds about right. And like that, what they're making is what we call a shit mix. I don't know what you guys call it. Yeah, and it's like really? So like if you it's like a forfeit, right? Like if you lose, you have to drink the shit mix, and it's just like as much crap as you can fit in one glass. And
our bars in the airport don't open till like 9, so it really sucks.
Oh, they're 24 hours in the UK.
Yeah. We got a little aggressive. It was funny though, because I literally set all their lineups for them in fantasy. They all loved fantasy. I still talk to them on Facebook and stuff. But I knew they were drunks in general, just because one of them liked the Cincinnati Bengals. And I was like, what are you doing? It was like 6 years ago. Like, yeah, Andy Dalton, cool, man.
Yeah, that's awesome, man, that you got to meet some English people in their natural
I had such a blast. Yeah, I got beat up too. It was nice.
Nice.
Oh shit. Not by English.
No, not people. Beat up. I mean, meaning like drink a lot.
Oh, right. Okay.
My liver got beat up.
I was going to say, like, I really hope not by English people, because like there's a high probability of that too as well. Like,
they were like the sweetest people. They were awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever watched any English. I know you guys call it soccer, but I just can't do that. So English football fan documentaries, or like a look on YouTube, right? Like you'll see we have a bit of an issue with violence when we're abroad as a general group of people.
So Green Street Hooligans is like based on a true story.
No, oh god.
No.
It's funny, right? It's funny because I have my family is like they're all like football fans, and like it's like die hard, like before you can walk sort of thing. You're given a football in my family, and most of my family outside of me, my dad and my brother, are Millwall fans. And I don't know how much you know about English football, but they've like got one of the worst reputations for violence and hooliganism and stuff like that. And so like that Green Street film is just such a shit like representation of like what
I know
actually is. There is a couple of really good films you can watch. One's called Football Factory, which is like the opening like first 4 or 5 minutes, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And there's like a monologue in it from one of Danny Dyer, and it's like if he says something along the lines, I won't get it right, but he says something along the lines of, do you want to be some like pissed off person working in an office for your boss while he takes home double your pay, and you go home to your sad little flat and have a wank in front of Pornhub at night, or do you want to come kick the shit out of people on a Saturday afternoon? He's like, I know what I'd rather do. Tottenham away, love it. And that's how it starts. You know what I mean? And it's like it's a brilliant film that's actually truly representative of British football violence culture. And I definitely recommend anyone watching it if they like a sports culture, sports film sort of thing.
I'll definitely check that out. Football.
Yeah, sorry for going on and on, keeping you here for an hour now.
Yeah, quite all right.
This was amazing. This is this is fun.
Thanks for not giving me a break from talking so much. So I appreciate it. Ryan, you got anything else as we close out here?
No, man, this is a great time, Jake. It was really nice to meet you, dude. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. And
Yes.
we've had some like local guests, but we haven't had anyone outside of like Mass, Rhode Island. So it's been cool.
Oh man, yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. Like, let me know any other time you want me to come on, and if you want me to jump on for 10 minutes during the draft later on this week, let me know. All good.
We
Hey,
appreciate
we'll
it.
appreciate it. We're going to be having
That's
a
awesome.
drinking game going live on YouTube.
I was gonna say I might be like a little bit tipsy, maybe a little bit high as well. So like,
Us too.
yeah,
Totally fine.
Cool.
Uh,
All right.
no rules. No rules except the drinking rules, so it'll be good. Send us your mock too. We'll put that up against ours.
I haven't done one. I don't
No,
do
of course not.
much. Don't bother. Yeah, I know I'm not gonna get it right or even
No.
remotely right. So
We're
I
not
will out of
either.
pure luck.
yeah, that was a
All
pleasure,
right,
guys.
man. Cheers.
Yeah,
Have a good
cheers.
one.
Pleasure. Take care.
See you, takers.